Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course, I'm always ready.
Yes. Wait, I have to pull the blankets up. There we go.
Okay.
That'll keep me just a little bit warmer. What?
Yes, that's a futile attempt to keep it a little bit warmer.
Well, you did say the house has been warmer the last couple of days.
It has been.
Because it's been warmer outside.
It has been.
Which has confused me.
It's not because of the blankets.
You know what? I'm not used to it not being between -10 to -15 at this point in time during the year.
Well, of course you're not used to it because you spent the last 20 years in Slovakia.
I'm not. So when the temperature is like +10 in the middle of winter, I'm like confused because I've already mentally decided that I can't go outside because it's the wrong time of year to go outside. But then I look out the window and some hardy jogger skips past in his or her in his or her fluorescent coloured t-shirt and shorts.
Because they do that here.
Because you might get run over by a tractor or...
And all cyclists are wearing those vests.
Attacked by a seagull or something.
All cyclists are wearing the vests that the roadworks guys wear.
Yeah, it makes them look like council employees.
Or roadworks guys.
I wonder if that's psychological and it's just designed to get everybody in the Star Trek system of just wearing the same stuff.
No, it's not. No.
It's random.
No, it's just people wanting to be seen.
Well, I suppose it does make a difference. But then again, you switch off after a while, right? After you've seen about 500 cyclists wearing pink and yellow.
Well, I don't know, because I haven't seen 500 cyclists wearing pink and yellow yet. And
you probably have if you count them up individually. If you saw like one a day or two a day, which would not be unusual, it would soon add up.
Apart from over Christmas when we didn't move out of the house.
Yeah, it was kind of a trap like that, wasn't it? Getting stuck inside. It's ridiculous to get stuck inside. But then if you're in a big house, you can feel like you're constantly moving around.
Yeah, it's a big inside.
But not actually get anywhere.
Yeah.
Isn't that life? That's life, right?
What age were you exactly when you moved to Slovakia? Exactly which birthday was it?
It was... Do you know when I moved to Slovakia? Do you know the story? Like, do you know that I moved to Slovakia on January the 15th, 1999?
I know you moved to Slovakia on January the 15th. I didn't know the year. That's why I asked.
There you go, 1999. Which, if I had stayed there... Look at that, third conditional. If I had stayed there and lasted until
January the 15th,
that would have been 20 years. But
so it was 19 and a half.
Yeah,
years.
It was 19 and a half years, which I think might be what's the word? I don't know. Should I apply to the Guinness Book of World Records?
That's almost half your life.
I know. Well, that's what I said. That's what I said to my clients when I talk about it. I said, like, the first... I divide it into thirds. I'm like, the first third of my life, I was in Britain, and the second third of my life, I was in Slovakia. and the third is I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the way I see it.
Uh-huh.
Is like
Almost 20. It makes you
you
half
don't count the
Scottish
first
and
couple.
half Slovak.
um,
You realize that, right?
no. What it does is give you a dual mindset. What it does do is allow you to see things the way that people here see things, and then allow you to see things the way that people there see things, and to contrast that.
And then you come back here and you're like, oh my god, people here are crazy. Kind of.
Yeah, and the people here don't see it naturally because they live in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of what makes my work different from other people's work.
Yeah, but what it does to you personally is that it's like when you're in Slovakia, you get to bitch at the Slovaks because of all the things in which they're not like the British, and then when you come to Britain, you get to bitch at the British because of all the ways in which they're not like the Slovaks.
Well, naturally, right? Well, naturally, you need something to contrast everything against. Yeah, you need the duality. You need like night and day, left and right, up and down. And so, if you don't have different cultures to contrast everything against, if you don't have religion and atheism, if you don't have don't know gravity and no gravity, whatever, you don't have anything to contrast stuff against, and that is that's a pretty good starting point, because most philosophies, psychologies, ideologies are Hegelian principles, and what this means is basically you have two forces acting against each other, which creates a single direction. You know, politics functions like that. Most people's, I mean, there's an argument that the human brain functions like that, with the left side and the right side of the brain, and so I think it's a very good perspective to have. It's definitely better than the perspective of, oh, okay, I'm going to spend 3 months somewhere else and then return to where I was before and not really change anything. Because people are habitual animals, and they love their sameness, and they don't want to change their routine, and to root the routine.
Oops. Yeah.
You're right
well,
over there.
I'm trying to make myself comfortable. I've got a headache and my neck is not feeling very nice.
Your neck is not feeling very well.
No. No, it's not. It's not
Okay.
at all.
Did you get any sleep?
I did.
Did you were sleeping with the cuddle monster?
Cuddle Monster fell asleep before I got to go to bed, so that is good.
You were screwed, sorry. Or that was good.
That was good. Yeah, I don't know. This girl, the one that sleeps between the two of us.
Right now.
I went downstairs at half past midnight
Yeah?
into the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
and I grabbed her under my armpit.
What was she doing under your armpit?
I grabbed her under my armpit and I carried her upstairs kicking. And I threw her in bed.
Was she kicking and screaming?
She wasn't screaming, she was just kicking. If she was screaming, you would have woken up, but you didn't. I was pretty pissed off.
I did wake up when she crawled into bed.
And I was pretty pissed off because I was in bed and I told her to go to sleep an hour before I did this. And instead of going to sleep, she told me, yes. She didn't move.
You sent the kids to bed at 9. I remember, because I remember looking at
No, it was 9:40 when the second arrow finished.
Oh, but you did say after the first arrow that's bedtime.
No.
No?
No, I didn't say it's bedtime. I asked whether anybody wanted to go to bed because Jasmine looked like she was tired.
There was a conversation about bed, but
yeah. So it was 9:40 when I sent them to bed, and she went to bed half past midnight.
If anybody wanted to go to bed, that's like asking people if they don't want chocolate cake. Yeah.
And I was very, very much pissed off because instead of going to bed, she went downstairs to pester Jetko.
She didn't pester Jedko. Jedko was watching his TV. I call it his TV now because her ladyship has her TV, and his his master servantness, I don't know what to call him, has his, and yeah, because she should have gone to bed when everyone else went to bed, and then.
Well, I thought she went to bed with you.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, she just, yeah.
Is that her
Yes.
in her sleep?
Yes.
Right. Well, okay. Anyway, no. What was it? 10 o'clock. That I went downstairs, and she was in the kitchen, and she was. First of all, she was sitting in a chair, watching TV with Jetko, and then she decided to build a hammock by stretching a scarf between the different chairs in the kitchen, and proceeded to almost kill herself in the process. And then she got the sticker book and decided to stick stickers in the sticker book, at which point I was going to bed, and I got her to come upstairs to the living room, if you remember. Because I was like, she's not going to go to bed, but at least she can do this somewhere where she's not.
Well, why shouldn't she go to bed? She could have just... Well, I thought, foolishly, that as I have put Will and Jazz to bed, and Jazz and Zora was with you, that you would come upstairs and you'd take Zora to bed.
Well, that was the idea.
Yeah, well, it didn't happen, did it?
No, it didn't. That was the idea, though. I did try. I did try twice. And, well, she was in that I'm going to ignore everything you say state.
Oh, shit.
And she seemed to be very happily sticking stickers in her sticker book. And I didn't see that as a disruptive activity.
Well, it's not a disruptive activity until she stays awake until 12:30 and goes downstairs to Jetko.
Well, I didn't expect her to stay awake until
just about ready to go to sleep himself, and she proclaims that she's hungry and he has to fetch food for her.
Yeah, but she's not really hungry at that point in time.
She's
just procrastinating.
And she would have stayed there until God knows when if I didn't come and grab her, taken her to bed.
Yeah, well, I had already got her upstairs. Alright, she should have been in bed. Maybe I should have dragged her to bed. But
that's just not how it works unless you make sure they are actually in bed before you go to sleep. They're not going to go by themselves. They're just going to... She is not going to go by herself.
It's not true that they're not going to go by themselves. Maybe the majority of the time they don't go by themselves, but there's times when they do as well.
Yeah, well, yesterday was not one of those times. So instead of finishing her stickers and crawling to bed...
You know what happens when I usually say to her that it's time to go to bed and I'm going to bed? She'll usually come and crawl into bed as well. She just didn't do that last night.
Yes, but it was just more things for me to pick up.
Oh, well, 2 out of 3 wasn't bad.
That's because I put the 2 out of 3 to fucking bed. Excuse my French.
And they went to bed and that was great.
Yes, because I made sure they did.
That's fantastic. You did a great job.
Thank you.
That was grand.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You did a great job.
Anyway,
Will generally goes to bed when he is sternly told that it's time.
Yes.
And
he doesn't mind going to bed because he likes to read his books. So he kind of likes that. You know what I mean? Will is a creature of habit. Will is like you. He's got his routines and he follows his routines and he's quite happy with it.
He was trying to kill time yesterday. And I said to him, "Okay, why don't you read a book?" Because he was like, "I'm going to go to my room and listen to the radio for half an hour."
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, "Oh, why don't you read a book?" And he's like, "Oh, that's the last resort."
Oh, he's so funny.
I was like, "Oh,
But he's
okay."
got the new David Williams book. But he also has lots of new other things, so I imagine it is the last resort.
Well, he's got new right now.
Hmm?
He's got his everything is new right now for him. So
I know.
he's got his.
Well, I was giving him a good night kiss last night, and I looked at that football table, and I was thinking, oh my gosh. Now he has to make the hard decisions, like, am I going to play with the VR headset or with the football table?
Well, no, because he needs other people to do those activities.
Yes.
So he can't really do them by himself. He can read by himself, but
Uh-huh.
he needs my permission to use the VR stuff. And
I
he
think
needs
we
somebody
should.
else
I think we should limit it quite severely.
well, you know my perspective. It's incentive, right?
Uh-huh.
My perspective is that it's incentive. It's like and I want him to. I want him to start the coding stuff,
Uh-huh.
and so I'm going to use it as incentive.
He needs your help to start that. He can't do that himself.
Yeah, okay, I get it. We'll sit down with the book and we'll go to the website.
Oh, you need to get the book first.
And
I mean, not the book that he got for Christmas. I mean, the booklet or whatever you're supposed to get from the website, right?
no, I'm not sure it makes a big difference where you start with that. But I don't know. I need to do a little bit more research on it.
Anyway,
But
he's gonna have a.
it's not much more complicated though than going to the website and beginning to look at stuff.
He's supposed to have another meeting on the 17th, isn't he? So it might be a good idea to do these things before then.
Yeah, I want him to do if possible, a complete course before he goes back, so that he's progressed
Yeah.
and he knows more.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave that up to you because I'm doing everything else with him school-wise, and I just don't have the mental strength, I think.
That's okay. I will put it on the radar of things.
Okay.
But I will use the VR as a
Yeah.
as the incentive. It's
Yeah.
like if you get all your stuff done, then then you can use it because it's a pretty good incentive to have.
It is. Yeah. I have to remember though that it's strain on his eyes and that it's a phone straight in front of your face, right? And you know what they said about phones being used too much around your head.
Yeah.
That's why I think it should be limited to short bursts of time.
Absolutely. At the same time, you saw the power of it yesterday,
I did. It's pretty cool.
where and my dad got it instantly. His dad's like, okay, how much does it cost? And
How much do the apps cost?
yeah, and how much do the apps cost, and how much extra do you have to pay? And I'm like, well, the headset's really cheap, and like the cheapest headset is like basically nothing, right? And it's like, well, what extras? I said, well, if you've got the phone already, then you don't need any extras. 'Cause this is enough to start with exploring things. And he's like, I see him getting his head around it, and he's like, why don't schools have these things? And then, the argument on the other side is that the argument that you made, you don't want to immerse them too much in the technological side of things. Yet,
why don't schools have those things? Well, because first every kid would need a smartphone, wouldn't they?
Yeah, as if there's not enough money to give every kid a smartphone now. I mean, it's ridiculous. Because my dad pointed out, my dad was like, so you could equip every kid in school with one of these for the price of paying a teacher for a day.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it's not exactly that simple, but that's the principle.
Yeah.
That you don't have to. You got all these people spending billions on education,
Yeah.
and they're completely missing the point,
Oh.
which is that the free market has already provided the tools necessary
Uh-huh. Yeah.
for human development,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and and so that's what's driving everything. You know, I didn't appreciate in the past. I didn't appreciate the fact that
There's something on my...
are you okay there? You playing with the mic?
There's something on it.
Uh,
Oh, I just took it off. Okay.
right. Yeah, I didn't appreciate the fact that new technologies were always expensive, and that you needed rich people to invest in them in order to bring down the price.
Mm.
And that escaped my radar until a few years ago, and then I was like, okay, I get it. And then you get all the rich people work out what's cool, and they invest in it, and that slowly brings the price down, and then it becomes more affordable for other people, and it sort of passes on down the chain in that way, and it's not a simple process where you can just release technology and people will go wow and buy it. It's sort of a chain reaction of things.
He was still thinking about it in the car, and we went shopping.
Yeah. Did I actually like cognitively connect with him in some way?
Because he asked me questions.
Yeah.
He was like, so if all these apps are for free, how are they making money?
Well, that's a great question.
So we were talking about apps we make money,
Well, you got a cuddle monster there.
and I was explaining things to him and so on. It was an interesting conversation. It was good.
Well, it's at the point now where the technology is becoming, on the negative side, more invasive, and on the positive side, just so cheap to produce that. And I don't mean sort of in the negative sense of cheap, where shit becomes superfluous so quickly, but I mean in the sense of people's access to it, which makes it affordable, and it means that people can experiment. And there's the Gary Vaynerchuk argument, which is that there's somebody in their bedroom somewhere. You okay there?
Yes.
Okay there. Right. So there's the Gary Vaynerchuk argument, which is that there's somebody in their bedroom somewhere that's going to change the world, because they've got a computer and a phone, and that's all you need in order to experiment with everything. You've got your computer and your phone and your internet connection, and you've got access to the data, and you've got access to the technologies, and there's nothing to stop you playing around with it.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's two girls in a bedroom somewhere who are playing about with their phone, and they're gonna come up with something that nobody else has thought about, and it's gonna revolutionize some part of industry somewhere. And that's what didn't happen in the past, because there was a completely irregular playing field.
Yeah.
With technology so expensive that to get anything done you had to build a factory. and now it's not like that anymore. And the downside is, people don't appreciate it, and are sort of feeling a little bit entitled to things, and they're using the technology as consumers rather than creators.
Yes, but think about everything else that people are using as consumers rather than creators. I mean, think about how you feel about cars, electricity, right? Think about how you
Absolutely.
feel about your blenders in the kitchen or the
Well, no,
Hoover.
yeah, but it's not
Right.
that I'm not.
It's an
It's not that I'm
essential.
not thinking about it. I mean, I know there's other people who don't think about it very much, but you know, I actually have those. I have those sort of processes that go through my head. Like if I'm out jogging, I'm thinking, wow, what a waste of my own energy if I was able to harness or channel the energy that I created in my body while I was jogging and sort of take it back home and use it to power something. That would be pretty amazing. I'm not sure that technology sort of exists yet, but um,
You're
y-
already powering your muscles.
yeah, but you know what I mean, right? You know what I mean? Like it's if you're on say you're on one of those old school static treadmills, right? And you're jogging on it, and they used to be like, used to be not like running belts as they have now. They used to be little wheels, the original ones, yeah, and you used to run on little wheels. And you know, think about the energy that's generated by that activity, and how that could be harnessed to do other things, even only little things like charge your mobile phone. Like if you're on an exercise bike, a lot of energy generated in that activity is lost.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be channeled into charging something or it just feeding into a general system so that the energy is not completely lost. I mean, energy is not sort of completely lost anyway. It's just transformed, isn't it? So it would just be
because your body doesn't do that.
what?
Well, your body creates energy that you need to use, right? When you're jogging, you're using the energy to power your muscles, to grow them, to fasten your heart rate, to create
Yeah.
heat for your body,
Yeah, but
to warm up your muscles, to work better. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay,
yeah,
I
it's
know
it's
what you
like
mean.
it's
You mean the extra energy that's
yeah. Well, like you know how
extra
somebody
kinetic energy.
riding a bike powers the light, right?
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
that same kind of energy can be generated in other. It can be generated in little ways, like you know, people walking around a house can generate that kind of energy.
Mm.
Um,
You know, yeah.
it's probably
Well,
not very effective, but you can do that.
you know me. I don't. What's the word?
What's the word?
Uh,
Bird. Uh,
relate
egg.
to. But relate to is not the word that I wanted to use. I wanted to use a different word, but I can't think of it. Súznieť. How do you say súznieť? You have no idea.
Suzniet,
Mm-hmm.
comrade.
It's like
It's like
no. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get the word. Sorry, I can't.
If you can't think of the word,
I
then
can't.
describe the situation.
Yeah.
That's the rule.
I don't relate to that idea of super effectiveness. It's like everything is effective, right? Right, like every part of the day, every part of the work, every.
Well, that's an absolute statement. And absolute statements always turn out to be wrong at the end of the day.
Well, I don't relate even to the effort to do that. You know, some people
Of
like
course
to.
you don't.
Some people like to be like everything to be effective, everything to have a goal, everything to be done with a certain.
It's got to be lean.
Everything to be done with a certain end goal in mind. I don't relate to that very well.
How do you get anywhere if you don't have an end goal?
I get. It's not that you don't have an angle. It's that you can have a balance between the angled activities that do have a goal. And I think that for myself, maybe not for other people, but for me, it is important to the activities that don't have a goal and are only done for enjoyment are as important for me as the activities that are done with a certain goal. Does that make sense? Because it balances it out for me, and I couldn't live normally.
What?
As
No, what
I
does that
couldn't
mean?
live as happily as I can without those activities that I only do purely for enjoyment. And when I do something for enjoyment, I like it. I almost like it not to have that element of effectiveness in it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I know what you mean. At the same time, happy doesn't need to mean ineffective.
Well, for me, it might.
Yeah, it might. It doesn't have to.
It might have to sometimes.
I mean, you can. What's that John Lennon quote that? I don't know what the quote is. Time spent wasting time is not wasted. I don't know. Something weird like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's not a waste of time because it makes me more balanced.
Or daydreaming is
so
not a waste of time because dreams are important or something
so
like
it
that.
in itself makes it effective. Just the fact that it's important for me to keep balanced. But yeah, you know what I mean. It's like when I do something, it's like sitting down, eating a cookie, and drinking a book.
Drinking a book.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It's like when I do that, it doesn't have. You think about it as a complete waste of time, right? But at the same time, it's just something that is so enjoyable for me that it's good to
Well,
do
if it's
that
enjoyable,
sometimes.
it's not wasted. Maybe that's the quote. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah. And I don't, and somebody might think, okay, well, if I'm going to read a book, I might as well read a book that is going to better my thinking in some way, and they will choose a book that will challenge them intellectually and that will give them new information that they're interested in or whatever. But I don't have that kind of thinking. It's exhausting to me.
Well, that's probably a historical setup within your mind. I mean, I think that people fall into patterns when they're young. But that's another argument. Anyway.
I mean, I'm happy to like read things and stuff that do give me information and stuff.
Stop saying
Called and
stop saying stuff.
Stuff.
And
Stuff and stuff.
The stuff was stuffed with stuffing. And that's the stuff
Yes,
that we're talking about.
My vocabularical
What's
capabilities.
What's that, vocabulary and clerical mixed together?
My vocabularical capabilities today are slightly hindered.
We could do like an Asian rap thing.
What's that Asian?
I don't know. Where does Bollywood come from? I don't know.
From Bolivia? I don't know.
Definitely does not come from Bolivia. There's not much I know about that, but it definitely does not come from Bolivia.
Well, why is it called Bollywood then?
Because that was the Indian Hollywood, no?
Yeah.
But
yes,
I don't.
Why is it Bollywood? Why is it not Indiewood?
Is there not a
Or
Bangor, Banglar,
Bangkok, Bangladesh? Why is it not called Bangwood?
Is this like a really stupid question? Like, why is Bangkok called Bangkok? Is it really called it? Because that's what happens there. I don't.
Where is it anyway?
Bangkok.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Thailand? My geography is so bad.
Mine is worse. Trust me, mine is so much worse than yours.
I'm happy that I know where I am.
Yeah, it's somewhere in Asia, isn't it?
There's a song from the musical Chess, the one done by the ABBA guys. One night in Bangkok and the world yours to.
Oh. Is that what they say?
Bangkok, Korean city with city don't know. I don't know. I just make up the words because I never listen to them. City
I remember that song, but you know how it is when you're Slovak and when you hear songs when you're really young and you don't speak the language and the words just kind of bland.
Yeah, well, it was like that. I don't think anyone ever really listens to the words of most pop songs because the majority of them just turn out to be
redonkulous.
Yes.
The words are not.
Heart's a stereo. It doesn't really mean anything. Or I want to be a
like the lyrics
millionaire
of
so
that
bad. Or it doesn't. It's
under my umbrella, Ella.
But that had an element of cool because they took the language and screwed with it a little bit.
No
And that was a really nice play with words. There was a little bit of artistry going on there, in a kind of nice sense.
I heard people translating into Slovak and singing in Slovak just for fun, and it sounded like something like pod mojím dážnikom, ikom.
Yeah, well, the Slovak language is an incomplete labyrinth of nonsense.
Oh, and you still haven't mastered it.
Although it's not irrelevant, not as irrelevant as heavy as the Slav in the modern world, but that's the way it is.
No, it's actually very logical in some ways. Sometimes.
If slightly complicated.
Yes, not as complicated as German though, or Latin.
Where they just make long words.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's have many prefixes and suffixes. Can we add to this word to make it so complicated that nobody can pronounce it?
Or Finnish or Hungarian.
Yeah, because by the time you get to the end of the word, you've forgotten what the word is.
It's those, I forgot what you call those languages. It's those languages where you don't use prepositions, but you change them into suffixes.
That sounds like crazy shit to me.
Yeah. It's like, you know how in English you use a preposition and then you use an adjective and then you use a noun? And then you look at German or Hungarian and they give you noun, adjective, preposition all in one word. They just add it on top of the word, right?
Well, it makes sense to do that. I mean, you would, in general, have a verb as a root.
Well, a million people speak that language, so it must make some kind of sense.
As much sense as Gaelic makes.
Oh, I don't know. I've never studied Gaelic.
Tractor.
Sounds like the Roma language. I love the Roma language that people use that the gypsies use in Slovakia, right? Because it's an old historical language type thing that they will speak in, but then there are words that they never had.
Yeah, well, it's
back in the time.
It just sounds like you've got a rabbit up each nostril.
Back in the time when they created that language, yeah. So what happens is they just add in the word in Slovak and they just continue in their language. So they're like blabbity 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 škola blabbity 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 blabbity. And It's just really funny because you just hear somebody speak in a weird
But it's not.
language that you don't understand. That's got southern Slovak words thrown into it.
Yeah, but it's not. It's more harsh than that. It's not blabbity. It's nya nya na 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 na.
How does that sound more harsh? That
Because
sounds cuter.
because you've got to intersperse it with words like vino and kurva and
Yeah, that's those Slovak words that they get in there.
Miro, daj mi ten vino, ti kurva.
No, that's just swearing in Slovak.
Oh,
That's
that's
not
just
the
Slovaks.
Roma language.
That's not Roma. That's just
No.
Slovaks.
That's just Slovak swearing.
That's what I used to hear outside my office every day.
And did they give you the wine?
What?
Oh wait, it wasn't you who was saying that.
No, I was just
Yeah.
I was just. Oh, there's a bit of a panic with the grandparents and the bins.
What beans?
What bins? The bins.
Why?
What?
Why is there a panic with the bins?
Because nobody knows
When the bins are taken out.
when the bins are taken
It
out,
should be tomorrow.
and nobody knows which bins go out on which days. And because it's a holiday, it's more
I do.
confusing. And because the village has been split into two, where half the village is done on one program and the other half is done on another program, because that's how the backwards people at the top have decided that it should be done. Because we have to make weird lines in weird places in order
Isn't
to
that
follow
two
weird
villages
rules.
anyway?
What?
Isn't it two villages anyway?
Sandwiches?
Villages.
Um,
Isn't it Carmouth one day and Kingston the other?
no, it stops halfway through Garmouth.
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh,
Isn't that insane?
it is.
That's like stopping halfway through a meal or something. It's just it's just bizarre. But then many things here are bizarre. And the local Facebook page had like 5 posts this week about which bins go out on which days, and
Yeah.
every answer was different,
different,
from
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
And then last night there was a post on the page saying, "Oh, like emergency message from the council about which bins go out on which day." They can't sort anything out. It's hysterical.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that it was that only green bins go out on a certain day, and there's a last minute change, and brown bins go out on a different day.
Yeah, that's what I
And
was
then we
saying.
drove through the village. I drove through the village last night because I went to pick up her ladyship
Uh-huh.
from her evening, and half the houses had only one colour of bins out,
Mhm.
and half the houses
Read both.
had both colours of bins out.
Yeah.
And you can see the confusion.
Yeah.
And I get the point. I would just like put out all the bins and let the people take the ones that they want to take, right?
Yeah.
And that would just kind of solve the problem.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's not like it's a big issue to wheel your bin on its wheels and like an extra
Yeah.
10 or 15 meters. Unless you live on one of those little farms down the back road where you have to wheel the bin all the way down the road, which must be a
Or half a mile.
yeah, which must be a huge task and a pain in the ass and require the services of
The tractor.
things to push and pull.
Yeah. Or
So
alternatively, you can just send the kids.
you could,
If you have any.
yeah, or if you have any competent kids. Because when you send kids to do jobs, it doesn't always turn out quite as you expect
Yeah.
or want it to.
Yeah, that's true.
That there sometimes tends to be more of a mess afterwards when you send them to clean up than before.
Yep.
Um,
That's true.
that's definitely the way it works out, though. So there was a bit of confusion. There still is, apparently. Nobody knows what goes out when. And it can't really be that complicated, can it? I mean, you just make a plan and stick to it. Why would you have to keep changing it?
I don't know. Maybe the bin men are on holiday or something.
I don't know, maybe the bin men have changed their gender. Maybe that would cause something weird to happen.
I'm not sure how that would.
Sorry?
Okay, never mind.
You're wondering where that came from?
Yeah, I'm just like.
Well, I said council,
"What?"
and then that flipped my mind to the meeting we had. And that flipped my mind to the conversation you had where they had to ask you these questions and like, oh, which gender do you identify with, and were you born
Is that gender?
as that gender?
Yeah.
Which is the most screwed up and fucked up question I've ever heard in my life, and shows a complete non-understanding of biological history. So,
I don't know.
it's completely screwed up. I mean, it's designed to. The whole point of it is to if we can get people to follow this rule, then there's nothing they won't do. That's the whole single principle of it. It's designed from the high levels of society as a rule that's so completely insane and so completely crazy that if you can get people to follow that one edict, then you will do anything and everything to follow the system.
I don't understand why they should even have to ask that.
Because of why I just explained why. It's a simple rule that if you can get everyone to do the craziest thing that you can possibly imagine, then there's nothing that they won't do. If you can get them to do it without question, then there's nothing they won't do. They will follow you to the death.
Because other questions made kind of sense, you know? I mean, they were personal, but things that they were asking, like, what ethnicity are you, right? Basically saying, you know, are you black or are you white? So that they can put you in a, so that if they have if they have a neighborhood that's 90% black, they would probably try to put black people there because they would feel better in that environment. I don't know, right? But you know,
It's a double-edged sword.
you know what I mean? Yeah, well, it is obviously because it would create some sort of separation, but
Which is what happens naturally anyway.
but maybe they don't want to. Yes, it does happen naturally, doesn't it? But
It does.
you know what I mean.
Multiculturalism is a lie.
I mean, they're not going to stick a, I don't know, Jewish family in the middle of a skinhead neighborhood or something. Doesn't matter.
Well, no, that would be diversity. That would be good. Right?
Shut up.
No, that's their argument. Seriously,
Yeah.
that's their argument. That would be a good thing to do.
So I
Yeah.
thought, you know, some of these
Let's put Christians in
questions.
the middle of a Muslim neighborhood. That's a great idea.
So I thought that some of these questions kind of made sense, but some of them didn't. And she also told me, you know, would you prefer rather not to tell? There was always an option. Were you born as a female, or would
Yeah,
you prefer not to tell?
That's one of those false questions, though. That's what that's a sort of non-opt-out question. It's like where people say, well, you know, you have to. It's like when people say, well, you have the choice not to vote,
Yeah.
but people don't understand that the aggregate of not voting automatically gives your non-vote to the winner. So there's actually no way to not vote. I'm not saying good or bad. It's a statistic. You can't avoid it.
It's, to me, it's a bit like a question, you know, like, do you have a, now I'm not comparing that these two things are the same, obviously, but it's like asking, do you have a criminal record or do you prefer not to tell? I'd be like, well, if I do, I'd prefer not to tell, right?
Yeah.
And if I don't,
Mhm.
I don't have a problem with that. So it's like, it's a bit of a loaded question.
You could have fun. You could have fun with that in a weird sense, right? If people saying like, "Do you have a criminal record?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I do actually," and they'd be like, "Oh," and they'd be able to write it. And I'd be like, "Yeah, I stole some sweets from the sweetie shop when I was 7 years old," and, you know, blah 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 blah. Because that shit screws you up for fucking life.
What, stealing sweeties?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it all starts with stealing sweeties, and then it moves on to
I stole a ring once.
what?
It's the first and the last time I've done something.
You stole a
like
ring. You've done something ever.
Yeah. I stole a ring.
A ring.
I stole a ring, and I must have been about 13 or 14. I don't know, a ridiculous
Nothing to do with
age.
Lord of the Rings. No?
No. And I was with my friend, and we were at the market. You know the markets that you get in Slovakia, Jarmok. Lots and lots of people, right?
Like the county fair thing.
Yeah. And there were the stalls, and all the goody goods were like put out on the little tables and stuff.
The goody goods.
And
What is that?
and we saw these rings. They were like wooden rings, and we liked them with my friend. And like, oh, let's steal these rings, right? I don't know why we just decided that we're gonna. It was like a dare or whatever it was. And my friend was, she was like she had the face of a rock, right? She just waltzed up to the stand, and she was looking at stuff, and she just stole the ring, and she waltzed away. She was like, "Oh, got mine, check it out." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's pretty cool." So, I was like deer in the headlights, right? First I would like stand next to the stand for like 10 minutes until I gathered my
That's what
guts.
you're supposed to do. No?
And I looked at it, and I looked at the people there, and I looked at the people going past, and I sussed the situation for a bit too long. And then I waltzed up to the stand with my deer in the headlights look in the face, and I grabbed the ring, and I kind of tried to, blend in with the crowd. But then I felt this grab onto my arm from behind, and I turned around and broke up in cold sweat and everything, and there's this huge guy just holding my forearm with his massive hand and be like, "Show me your hands." And I stupidly put that ring straight onto my finger after I took it. So I showed him my hands, and he said, "You should be ashamed of yourself. I should call you out as a thief, and
Because you were.
go and put it straight back where you took it from." I almost shat myself.
Well,
I was
quite
so
rightly too.
I was so scared. God, I was so stressed out. So I took that ring and I put it back, and I was just so ashamed of myself. I've never been so ashamed of myself in my life. And then I joined my friend back, who was like looking at me from the distance, laughing her head off. Right? And I was like, ah.
Good friend.
Yeah.
Good friend.
So, well, what was she supposed to do, right?
What? Well, she encouraged you to steal in the first place, right? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, that's not a wise move.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Here, I want you to do this thing that could, get you
In
into
trouble.
serious trouble.
Yeah. Anyway, so I got away with just being scared to death. And I think he saw that, right? So he didn't do anything else. He probably didn't have the time to do anything else either, because he wanted to sell more rings. Anyway, it was horrible. I've never ever stole anything in my life after that, as you can imagine.
Was it a nice ring?
I don't even. Yeah, it was one of those wooden things. I would have probably lost it like within 2 weeks or something, 'cause as kids do, right? So.
As you do. Well, it's, imagine a different scenario. Imagine that you hadn't been caught. Imagine that you got away with it. Imagine that it was fun and you tried to do it again and you were successful again. Imagine that road.
Oh, I don't think that it would have turned me into a thief or whatever, I don't think it would have turned me into a full-fledged criminal or something. I just think that
How do you know?
because I know myself, And I know that I did not like the rush of adrenaline. So even if I did succeed, I would probably get out of there and I'd be like, okay, well, I got this fucking ring, but I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, but
Because
success
I've been in similar
success has
situations
a
before.
different impact than failure.
Yes, I know, but I've been in situations before when I did things that I weren't supposed to do and I did not like it and I never did them again, you know? So it's not like I would do it just because I was successful.
But there's a tendency or a higher probability to repeat what we view as successful activities. I think.
I don't know.
I
I
think.
think that eventually being an adult would win, and having some kind of morals would win over that. So maybe I would have repeated it again, but definitely wouldn't develop a regular habit of it because I'm just not. I just don't have the guts. I never had the guts.
It's not just guts that puts a person in that position.
Well, no,
It's
you
a
must.
variety of different experiences.
You
It's
must.
also
You must have the
the
poker
wrong.
face.
It's also the wrong motivations. I mean, it's not just about guts. It's also about the thrill and excitement. It's also about the desperation.
Well, that's the thing,
It's
that it
also about
wasn't
the
a
friendship
thrill.
elements.
That wasn't really a thrill or excitement for me. That's what I'm saying. It was a nuisance.
Mm. So you were doing it just to be friends with somebody who wasn't a good friend.
I don't know if she wasn't a good friend. She may have had her morals wrong back then in that point in time. And you have to remember that we were kids. We may have been 12, 13, something like that. So I don't think you can even talk about morals in a, because it's not all developed.
Well,
with that age.
there is another argument, which is, why would anyone at the age of 12 or 13 suggest to their friend that they steal stuff?
Because of experimenting with what's possible and what's not possible.
Yeah, I would argue that the majority of children at that age know that it's bad and would not go down that road. Or, in my experience, the majority of children that I've met, I mean, there might be another group out of there that's completely different. I don't know. But
Oh, I don't know. I think that you've got very idealized ideas about kids. I mean, kids do stupid things all the time. I mean, we got pissed when we were 14 and we were not the only kids getting pissed, and you know that it's wrong, right? Everybody knows that it's wrong to get pissed, but everybody does it anyway.
I
Did you never
I have a different take on that, actually.
did you never get pissed when you were 14?
No.
Well, you told me that you got pissed with your friend and your parents found you kissing her on the floor or something when you were kids.
What?
Well, you told me a nice little story when you had a friend over or something and then you got pissed. Because you
What?
drank your parents' booze.
What?
Well, I don't know. You
What?
told me that story.
What? I don't know. I don't know this story. Can you
Well,
could you tell me the story about my past that I don't know
You
about?
told me a story
sure,
when your
sure it was
parents
me?
went away and you drank
What?
and you drank their booze and then they came
What?
back and they found you completely drunk.
I'm not aware of that ever happening.
Well, then
I
you
think-
must have made that up back in
Whoa,
the time when you told me.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, because this is just like a circular argument. Because I'm saying that you've made something up, and you're saying that I've made something up, and I don't know where it's come from.
Well, you told me a story that you got pissed when you were a kid, when your parents went somewhere and then they came back and you said,
What
and
do
they
you- what?
opened the door and they saw me. And just as they
What?
opened the door, something, I don't know whether you tripped or whether you or whether
What are you
you
talking about?
fell or whatever. But
Did
you
you
said
dream
that
this?
you said no, I didn't dream this.
Wait,
But
because
you said that you got
okay, I'm
pissed.
listening.
I don't know if it was intentionally or unintentionally by mistake drinking something that you thought they didn't have alcohol in it. I don't know. But I knew
Well,
that
now the story's changing.
you told me that you got pissed
And you've said that
and your
like 10
parents were
times.
somewhere and
That's
they
that's
came back and they opened the door and they found you pissed kissing someone.
what?
I don't know.
That's never happened.
Well,
That's just a made-up story.
that's the
Seriously.
story that you told me.
No, well,
Or at least there was something similar, okay?
oh, whoa, whoa, whoa,
that.
whoa, 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 whoa. Let's not rewrite history, shall we? Let's not rewrite history by, first of all, saying that you said something, or then you said something similar to something. Let's be really, really careful about this.
Well, that part about you being drunk was definitely there.
And okay, well, let's explore. Let's explore this. There's some story about me at some time getting drunk. That's a
When you were
pretty
a kid.
vague story.
Yes, when you were a kid and you were at home and you got drunk. I don't know. How did you get drunk multiple times?
Listen. Before I went to university at the age of 17,
Uh-huh.
I had maybe 3 or 4 experiences with alcohol before the age of 17. I only drank it about 4 times
Uh-huh.
before the age of 17.
Uh-huh.
So, for what you're saying to be true, it
Mhm.
must have been one of those times.
Mhm.
And I can tell you right now that that was not any of those times. So, that story cannot possibly be true.
You
In
said-
that sense.
Well, I don't know what you
No,
told
and you're
me
saying you
then,
don't know
uh-huh.
about it. So I'm telling you,
No, I'm saying what you
at the
told
age of
me.
17,
know
I
what you
went to
told me.
university. 4, maybe maximum 5 times I was drunk before I went to university at the age of 17. Maximum 5 times. And I know every one of those times and every one of those places.
Uh-huh.
And that was not true in any of those circumstances.
And none of it was when your parents had a party or something and you drank their booze.
I've never done that. And I never did that before the age of 17, that my parents had a party and I drank alcohol.
Okay. Well,
So
that's the story. That's a random story that you told me about 10 years ago.
a random story about...
I don't know what it was that you were talking
You
about.
don't even remember what you're talking about, so...
Well, I remember the main point. You were drunk. And your parents found you drunk.
My parents found me drunk.
Yes.
I'm struggling to comprehend. Is it possible that perhaps you misunderstood the story that I was telling at the time?
Well, it was
Is
10
it-
years ago, so it is possible that
Is
I
it possible that
misunderstood
maybe
it,
your
but
brain is playing tricks on what you can remember as some of the details of the story? Is that possible?
my brain is not playing tricks on me right now. It is possible that 10 years ago when you told me the story, I may have misunderstood a part of it. That's always possible, right?
Okay, well, this is interesting because as far as I'm aware, in the format that you told me, this never happened, ever. Now, there may be a collection of different stories when you put them together, or it may be something that's misunderstood or misinterpreted, because history is epic, right? So there's a million and one variations on things. So I'm intrigued by this thing that never. I'm intrigued by this. I'm intrigued. I want to know what it's actually about. Because, let's see. When did I get drunk? I had 2 parties here when I was a kid that I didn't drink at my own parties because I spent most of the time taking care of everyone else who was drinking, like you do at your own party, because you're worried that people destroy stuff. So I didn't drink at any of those parties. Then there was what? There was a couple of nights I slept at a friend's house where we had a few beers. Was there something else? Is there something else that I'm missing? There was one night that a friend had a birthday party in his house, which was part of a farm, and that was the first night that I got drunk and because I drank everything and then proceeded to vomit it all up everywhere. There was that. That's kind of it. Sorry, my life was just.
It was a
totally
funny
boring.
story about you being a kid, and I think it was that you accidentally drank some booze. Maybe that you didn't know that was boozy. Is that possible?
Booze that was boozy. Boozy. The story. I accidentally drank some alcohol that I didn't know was alcohol.
'Cause you were a kid? Anything
Not
like that?
Not aware of accidentally drinking something that I didn't know was alcohol.
I don't
Not
know.
aware at
I
all
just
of
know
ever
that you
doing
told
that.
me. I just know that you told me this funny story
Okay, so there was a funny story about something
about you being pissed
about me. Well, aren't most
at a very
stories
young
about
age, and about your parents finding out.
at a very young age?
Yes.
I never touched any alcohol before the age of. Yeah, I'm gonna say 16. I never touched anything. I never drank anything in my life before
Not
the
even
age of 16.
accidentally.
No.
Not even having a taste of whatever was left in your parents' glass after their night of drinking. I find that hard to believe, as your mother tried to give Baileys to my children.
No, I didn't touch any alcohol before I was 16. I might have, at say the age of 12, had the tiniest little sip from somebody's glass of beer to know what beer tastes like, but I probably just let it touch my lips and that was all. But I really never touched alcohol before I was 16. Didn't drink anything.
Okay.
So, the story about me getting drunk at a very young age, I'm like, that's an impossibility.
Well, I don't know where that came from. Then maybe you made it up when you told it to me. I don't know.
Well, I don't know what the story
I
was.
just know you told
so
me a story about you getting drunk at a young age.
why would I
But
make
you
up
also,
why would I
but
make
you
up a
also,
story
you
about
also
that? I don't
forget
understand.
a lot of things all the time. Like I tell you something that happened 5 years ago, and you're like, oh, I don't remember any of that. Or you told me that
5 years ago is a long time.
you don't remember half of your childhood. So is it possible that you told me it and then you forgot about it?
No, but it is possible that there are. Well, it's not possible. It's a fact that there are a lot of things I don't remember.
But it's not
Because
possible.
the whole
that
thing was trauma for me. But
yeah, but it's not possible that you told me a story and then you forgot about that happening.
No, because I think that either A, it is possible that there are things that happened in the past that I forgot about, and if I forgot about them, then I can't tell you a story about them because I don't know about them because I
Is it not
don't remember.
possible that you still remembered 10 years ago, but you
No.
don't remember now?
No,
No.
No.
That's not possible.
That's not possible because I know more now than I did then. So the converse is true, and I know it would sound crazy in terms of collation of information, but about that period of my past, I know more now than I did then because I've done more personal development on that period of my life. So, so that's not a possibility.
Oh well. I'm gonna have to quiz your parents.
Feel free.
Anyway, the point
about
was
those
that
topics.
kids do stupid things. And it doesn't define who they become as adults. It's just experimenting. My friend didn't turn into a thief. She didn't, she's not a criminal. She doesn't steal regularly anything.
Well, no, that's my
She didn't
my line
steal
of question.
regularly after that either.
My line of questioning would be in a slightly different mode, where I would be, because you're like, well, it was normal for kids at that age, at that stage,
Yes.
at that time. See, I disagree with that completely. I don't think it is.
Well,
I don't think it's normal for kids to think that stealing things is the right way to go. I really don't.
But I didn't think it was the right way to go.
No, but that's
You
not
don't
the complete
understand.
point. Don't ask me if I understand when I make a different point. My point is not about
Your point is you
stealing.
made up a statement. I didn't ever say that it's completely normal way of thinking that that's the way to go.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm
Yeah, me
wondering
neither.
where the process of thoughts that led to that in that person came from, where they would want to do that thing and see that thing as an okay action. I mean, it's like if
But I didn't see that thing as an okay action. That's the whole point.
yes, but then that would just lead me to another question, which would be, that's really bad.
That's not a question.
Yeah, I know that's not a question.
You just said it's a question.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I
You
said
did. You
no,
said
no,
that
no,
would
no,
lead
no,
me to a completely different
let's not make things
question.
up. Let's not make things up.
You can
Let's
listen back
not make
to
things.
it.
Let's make things up. Let's not make things up. I'll tell you exactly what I said because I know exactly what I said. I said that would lead to another question.
Yes.
I didn't say that the next thing I was going to say was going to be that question. I said that would lead to another question. Stop. And then the next thing was not the question because I didn't want to go to that question. If you want me to go to that question, look, I have the ability to change the direction.
Well,
Oh.
yes, go to that question because when
Okay.
you say that it leads you to a question and you don't say the question that it leads you to, that doesn't really make much sense, does it?
I know. I get the fact that you wanted that question there. I knew what I was saying specifically and precisely in that sentence. So the question is, why would you normalize an activity that's not normal?
Okay. I normalize experimenting in that age. Experimenting with limits, experimenting with morals, experimenting
What?
with what's possible
Why do you need to
and what's
experiment with
not
morals?
possible. Because
They're-
that's what kids do.
Kids can push boundaries, but they don't experiment with morals. I mean, because you can't experiment with morals. Morals are black and white.
I think kids experiment with these things all
There-
the time.
There's no
think about
flexibility in a moral
philosophy,
chart.
They think about philosophy, they think about religion. Kids that are teenagers gain a whole new view on the world, yes? So they are drawn to
No.
experiment with everything.
No, I think they have progressive understandings. I don't think.
I think that kids that are teenagers come to new understanding about their parents and therefore are likely to question everything that has been taught to them by the parents. And they will question it and they will think about it and they will decide whether they're going to still accept it as they did until now or whether they're going to experiment with it and see if it's really true, if it really works, or if they can gain something else from somebody else, some new points of view or whatever. And I think that usually when they experiment with these things, if they have a good upbringing, they're going to go back to the sound basis that they got, right? And if they didn't have a good sound bases given by their parents that then then they may stray in all different types of directions, right? That's why I came back from that experiment knowing that what I have done was wrong, because I had good sound bases in that area from my parents. Yes, but if I didn't, then I could have gone God knows what direction.
See, I have a different perspective on that. My perspective is you didn't have a sound basis. You're telling yourself something which is not true. Because if you'd had a sound basis, you wouldn't have needed to experiment. Because morals are morals.
I think that it's very natural for a
The
good
same
teenager
argument.
to
Okay, that's
experiment.
what you're using is this, I don't think this is a
I
real
think that's
argument,
what
but this is
powers
an argument on
nature.
that side, which is it's a slippery slope. You could use the same argument for stealing a car. You could use exactly the same argument for stealing a car,
Hmm.
and it would be just as bad and just as wrong.
Well, no, I would never do that.
Well, that's my point. That you've got standards that you picked up from probably from your family, which are wrong. You've got standards that you picked up, and you fight against this in your own mind. But you've got standards that you picked up that were wrong. You'll fight against the mental blocks. Because I don't think that children meet so-called new experiences. I think they meet progressive experiences. Each experience is a step based on a previous experience. There's no giant jump from old to new. There are gradual steps, or what psychologists would call nudges, in specific directions. Our life experiences, and once again you're making faces, which means you're blocking the information I'm giving
Oh, I'm
you.
trying to understand what you're saying.
We don't experience psychological jumps, we experience psychological nudges. And what this means is our position is moved ever so slightly, step by step. It doesn't jump from one place to another place. That's how media works. Media pushes people in short steps, nudge, 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 to get people to do certain things or think certain ways or vote certain ways. It's not a sudden jump from one thing to another. Everything is a series of stepping stones, from each stone from which you can see the previous point. Because if you can't, there's no logic in any kind of developmental psychology. You have to go step by step by step. There's no jump. There's no complete new experience. Because in order to be able to accept something as the logical next process, you have to have a system in place working within your own mind or your own form of logic that's there. The brain can't function in any other way except to be completely disjointed and completely disconnected. You either have process or no process. And if you have no process, it's random, and the brain doesn't function. Logic doesn't function. Thought processes don't function in the sense of randomness. They function in the sense of, what do I know previously? How can I apply that to where I am? And what is the next logical step in this direction? So this idea that teenagers are meeting new experiences, they're meeting experiences or situations that they understand by reflecting on what they've done previously and applying the previous knowledge to the situation that they're entering. If you want to describe something as new, you could say, yes, we have new opportunities every day. Yes, we go through experiences which are new, but our decisions based on those experiences are not new processes. They're based on processes that already exist, and we take these little short steps, these little nudges forward in our development. And so when somebody's basically passing off, well, this is just teenage activities, this is what they do, they seek out something new, they're completely avoiding all of the psychologic process, which in a lot of cases is trauma, that is causing them to choose the negative path. People think like the negative path is just, oh, that's just experimentation. Oh, that's just kids being kids. Oh, well, they're teenagers. Oh, they're going to do that anyway. Oh, we did that all in the past. That's just the way society is. Oh, you know what I mean. And it's all nonsense, because there's a logical process. Whether you can see it or not, there's a logical process to every single thing that exists in nature. Every single thing that exists in society. And when we're ever confused about something, it's because there's a process that we don't understand or we can't see, but it's still there. It's always there. Nothing exists in absolute isolation and completely disconnectedness. So when teenagers or young people have this so-called process of experimentation, of pushing borders, boundaries and limits, it's not anything new. It's the direction they've always been going in based on their past experience. And people don't see what the little things that add up. Maybe they watched a certain number of programs where theft was part of the program. Maybe they listened to a certain number of songs where a certain theme or topic was prevalent in those songs. Maybe their friends talked about something. Maybe they've seen their family go through a certain series of experiences that they normalize because they don't have much beyond their own experience to compare the world to. And when teenagers are pushing those buttons of experimentation, it is an element of self-discovery and attempt to find the self, but that's just based on the processes that have already been laid down and laid out for young people. So it's so when a young person wants to steal or enter that world, and they say, well, I wanted to find out what the thrill of it was like, or it was just fun. It's never that. It's never that. That's just a whitewash. That's a whitewash over a deep psychological situation to say that, because it's never just that. It's never just that. It's always something more. It's always something more. And I know that we've covered that in a previous conversation, and I know that also reflects what I've experienced as well, knowing that there's always, you can always study everything deeper. You can always get more information about it. You can always learn more. It's never complete. It's never finished. It's never ended. You okay over there?
Yeah.
You need to put the mic on if you want to talk. Yeah.
I don't want to talk. You're still talking.
I finished. Finished now.
Already?
Well, I thought I would see if I could break through the frowns and the strange gazes and the odd expressions.
That was a very nice lecture there, but you didn't really tell me anything new.
But it did explain why you just said what you just said. Because you just said it didn't tell me anything new. Well, that's the result of previous experiences. I understand that.
Yes. Obviously, all actions are based on what you know and what you've done before. I mean, that's obvious, right?
It's not always obvious in the moment, but in reflection, yes.
And, well, no, you don't think about that when you're 12. You don't think about, oh, my actions are all determined by what I've been through.
Absolutely, you don't. I mean, it would be nice if you had that ability to self-assess at
It
that
would
point
also
in time.
be unnatural,
But
I think.
natural is kind of what you allow it to be. Because environment affects perspective and opinion and decision, and environment can be controlled.
You know, teenagers have it tough emotionally because their amygdala is developing first and much faster than their frontal cortex. And therefore, their emotions develop faster than their decision-making abilities. And that's why that's actually a biological reason why teenagers are prone to making stupid decisions based on their emotions. You know, like running away from home and things like that. Obviously it has a sound basis in their experiences. Yes, a timid teenager that's got a happy home is not going to run away from home. But the thing is that the point I'm trying to make is that teenagers are not good at making decisions and assessing the consequences of their actions because of the way that their brain is developing and growing biologically. During the teenage years, the brain is going through a massive growth spurt kind of thing, just comparable to the development that it goes through during the first 4 years of their life. Yeah. The development slows down and evens out during the ages like between 5 and 12, 13, and then it goes through.
Sorry, when is the higher, faster stage of development, and does that mean physical growth, or is that
it's physical? It's physical growth and just complete kind of restructuring of the connections and processes. It's basically a child's brain becoming an adult's brain.
Okay, and so when is you saying that the brain?
I'm saying that during the teenage, first you've got a fast growth and development of the basis in the first 4 or 5 years of life. Yeah.
Okay.
Then it kind of evens out, and it goes steady and balanced until the teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get fast growth in certain areas again.
So is that
restructuring?
Is that physical and psychological?
That's physical, and it obviously has psychological consequences. So, right? So
the first, you're saying like the brain grows quickly for the first 5 years, and then slows down. Did I get that right?
Well, the quickest growth is during the first 3 years.
Okay, so it grows quickly for the first 3 years and then slows down. Is that right? I just want to get straight in my head so that I understand what you're saying.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and then
during the teenage years, it goes through a growth spurt again, and restructuring. It's basically becoming, you're getting an adult-sized machine working.
So if I understand this, there's this sort of
there's a fast
quick development from 0 to 3, you're saying, and then there's a steady increase to when, and then
to teenage years.
So
teenage
13.
Years. Say 13, but obviously it's going to be individual for everybody.
Okay,
just like
so say
everything
around
else,
13,
okay?
you're saying, yeah.
And then
so there's 13 to when, which is does it what
teenage years.
That's a big period. It's 13 to 19 is
Gee, I don't know. It's
6
individual
years.
for everybody, okay? I cannot give you the exact amount of time it
Whoa,
takes.
slow down. I'm not asking for an exact amount of time. I want to know if, because
I'm
there's a
explaining
different,
to you
there's a different.
that I don't have the exact amount of time it takes and the
Yeah,
exact ages in which it happens, but
Yeah,
it's during the
is
teenage ages.
but
It's
is it more?
individual for everyone.
That's fine. But is it more 13 to 16 or 17 to 19? Because there's a big difference.
It's more 13 to 16 than 17 to 19.
So it's more 13 to 16 that the
Yes.
brain begins to grow again.
Yes. It's not that it begins to grow again, it's growing all the time, but it starts fast development and restructuring. Faster, it grows faster.
So the development of the brain is faster 0 to 3 and
then
13
during
to
the teenage
13
years.
to 16.
And the first areas that develop are not the rational areas, okay? So the first areas that develop are the emotional areas.
Yeah, I would put a big question mark there, because in my experience, emotions are rational.
That's the first time ever I hear you saying anything like that.
Now, I have to qualify it because people can take this the wrong way. Yeah. What I mean by the fact that emotions are rational, let me explain. Emotions are processes, and if you imagine it in sense of, or in the sphere of stimulus response, yeah. Imagine you're watching a film, and there's like a really sad scene. Yeah, I don't know, somebody dies, and there's like the piano music in the background. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, you start to feel sad as well, and people will cry. At the end of the film, I don't know, a character dies, and there's some sad music, and it's all built up, and there's all this tension, and this sudden release, and,
I get the point.
I was going to mention a film, the Dead Poets Society kind of thing, if you've ever seen that with Robin Williams.
I've seen it, but I can't remember.
The end is really emotional there. And so the film, script, the music, the cinematography, the acting, everything is designed to create an emotional response.
Yes. That's what art is designed to do, yes.
Well, that's just part of what art is designed to do, definitely. And so, that's all logical. Right? That's all logical. You are designing the emotional response. Therefore, there must be a process of logic in order to create the emotional response that you want to create. It's like when people write, I don't know, like the happy songs, right? They're designed to make people dance and feel happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's logic involved, because they want to create an emotional response, and they want to create a happy response, and so everything is upbeat and framed in a positive way in order to create this happy response.
Oh, it can.
So in that way, there is a process to create the positive result. I mean, you don't find happy death metal songs, right? Unless it's a joke, right? But you just don't. So there's logic there in the process. So when there's an emotional response, it has to be to some kind of stimulus which is logic to create that emotional response. Now the variation, the difference, the other side is when your experience in your past channels you to have a different emotional response than somebody else. So somebody else is watching the end of the film and they're crying. and somebody else is watching the end of the film and they're like laughing, right? Because their pathway of experience in the past causes a different emotion to trigger. Therefore, the emotional response is still logical based on a person's history. It's emotional responses are not. Can I say not logical? Does that make sense? Because
makes
they're
sense.
result of because just the final sentence. Because they're the result of response to a very specific stimuli.
That's all true, but it is also relevant to what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't really matter. Because what I was saying is that their emotions or their emotional reactions to things become stronger, but their decision-making processes and their capability of seeing consequences of their actions are still on the child's level, because they're the last part of the brain to develop, according to my research. And
Sorry, what's the last part of the brain to develop?
the frontal cortex,
Okay.
the part that is responsible for decision making and for understanding consequences.
Okay.
And therefore they've got sort of adult bodies, yeah. They're all tall and grown, and they've got strong emotions. They are already governed a lot by their adult instincts, yes. But their decision making is on a child's level, basically. Often, like throughout this process, in the middle of this process, yeah. So, so that's why teenagers make stupid decisions, which is a generalization, but often they can make decisions based on their emotions that have consequences that they have not foreseen. Yeah. For example, I don't know, for example, they overreact to certain situations. For example, they overreact to I don't know, being grounded, and they run away from home, and then they get into situations that are unsafe because they didn't think about, ooh, this might actually be unsafe or whatever. Yeah, that was just an example off the top of my head, which obviously you could now psychologically analyze why that would all be based in their unhappiness and their childhood and trauma and so on. But that's not the point right now. The point is that that's what they do. That they tend to make emotional decisions without foreseeing the consequences, and that is exactly what I was doing back in that situation. I imagine I had emotions that, told me this might be fun, or I want to do something that my friend says is fun, and I want to try it and see what happens. That was not a logical decision. That was more of an emotional decision because I wanted to see what it felt like. I was curious, and I didn't think about the consequences at all. And obviously, it was a very bad decision making, right? So I think that when you think about teenagers and what they do, which is going to be important for us when the kids become teenagers, you have to realize these biological changes that are going on within their bodies and within their brain. And you have to incorporate them in your parenting. Because I think that often parents being too hard on their teenage kids come from parents seeing, oh, the child now looks almost like an adult. They should be thinking like an adult. And they don't realize that in certain ways, the kids are not an adult yet. Because of the biological developments and processes. Because sometimes parents don't realize that it's a process, that it's not like he was a kid and now he's an adult. You know what I mean? It's
Well,
not
there's
like,
there's not an instant point.
it's not like, oh, now he's 13, so he should now be rational and logical and be able to think like me.
Yeah, of course. There's a whole network of things that need to be untangled in that statement of they need to be rational like me, right? Because I'm pretty sure you could break down a lot of so-called rationality as irrationality. And what I think you said, and I want to get this right because I don't want to be paraphrasing you if it's wrong, okay? Is that young people, teenagers, have an inability to understand the consequences of their activity, and that's why they make certain mistakes.
I'm not saying it's an inability. I'm saying that their ability to do that is still on child level. Children don't have an inability to understand consequences. Children can understand consequences, but it's not to the level that adults can understand consequences.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they can understand them short term and only to a certain level, but it's not.
Doesn't an inability mean that they are not able to do something?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
But I'm saying that it's not that they are completely not able to. They are able to, but not to the extent that adults are able to.
Do you think if younger children have clearer modeling of better thought processes in making decisions, that it could be easier for them and they could develop more quickly?
Do you think that could make kids grow faster?
I think
physically?
I think it can't hurt their cognitive development.
It's obviously better if they have good and clear modeling. I mean, that's absolutely, that's a non-question, right? Is it better if they
that's
have
why I asked
good?
it.
Is it better if they have? Well, why did you ask something that is obvious?
Because I wanted to
is the sky
clarify if
blue?
it was obvious or not. I wanted to clarify if it was obvious or
Is
not.
the grass green?
I
Yes.
wanted to clarify if it was obvious or not.
Yes, of course it's better if the kids have good role models in their life.
Okay, now.
Right? But it's not going to make them grow any faster. It's not
But
going to
here's
their brain
here's the point.
grow
Here's the point I
any
want to
faster,
make.
develop
Right.
any
Here's the
faster.
point I want to make. You can only build upon what you've already built upon.
Yes,
You can't build upon something which doesn't exist.
yes.
Right. So if there is more modeling, then you can build upon that modeling. You're
Yes,
setting the example. You're setting the framework.
yes, obviously. It's not that you can. I say you have to. You don't have a choice. You're already
Yeah.
doing that.
Therefore, the stage at which the teenager is at is dependent upon the amount of positive or negative modeling that they've experienced previously.
Listen, look at the body, yes? A kid at age 12 can be pre-diabetic, obese, and have sore joints, yeah? They can also be healthy and fit and have muscle mass, yeah? But you're not going to influence whether they're going to be short or tall. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, you can decide whether you're going to give them good bases or whether you're going to give them bad bases, yes, but you're not going to influence the natural biological processes with which the brain develops.
I would argue that there's evidence to contradict that.
To a certain extent, okay?
There's
But you're not going to make the nature work faster. You're not going to make their prefrontal cortex be
Whoa.
nature.
Slow down.
No, I haven't finished my sentence.
But there's a mistake. Okay, I'll come back to it.
I haven't finished my sentence.
Okay, please continue.
You cannot make their frontal cortex mature sooner. Or in time when it's not ready to mature yet. Just like you can't make them grow taller before their body is mature to be taller. Do you understand? There's biological processes in there. Yes, you can influence. You can
have my breakfast.
I know, darling. You can influence the hormone levels, and you can influence the as I said, you can influence whether they've got strong muscles or weak muscles, just like you can influence whether they're used to think logically, and because you can make the brain stronger, just like you can make the muscles stronger through, teaching them brain processes and exercising the brain and training their memory and things like that, and giving them good emotional bases and everything. But I don't think that you can influence the natural biological processes that are timed within certain periods of our life.
What you're basically saying is you can't fuck with evolution.
It's development more than evolution. Evolution is...
Okay, it's synonymous in my mind. Development and evolution. Unless you're saying that one's natural and the other's controlled. I don't know. But
no, I'm saying that evolution happens through hundreds and hundreds of years. And development is the short-term word for evolution, which happens throughout one person's life.
Yeah,
so you can...
I understand that definition.
You can't... Yeah, my analogy that I gave you with the body is a good analogy.
Right. Let's understand a couple of things. Number one, there's limits on everything. Mm-hmm. Almost. And I say almost because the body is far more limited than the mind. It's far more limited than the mind. Now, I'll come back to that argument. I want to make another point. I'll come back to the body has its own way of development and redevelopment and specific purpose and function in the sort of spacesuit kind of context where the body is a spacesuit for the mind, yada yada yada, whatever. We'll come back to that. The body is far more limited in how we can influence it. For example, you can choose to read a book, right? Mm-hmm. And you can read the whole book, and from that whole book you can get a whole new perspective on life. Well, that's a wild statement. Let me clarify. Okay, let me step back. The whole book is not the book is not going to give you a whole new perspective on life. It's going to help you see something differently. Okay, right? Mm-hmm. That you never saw before.
Yeah.
So you can do that. Now, scientific studies show that children who have better nutrition grow to be larger than children who have worse nutrition.
That's
a fact.
Logical.
It's a fact, right?
I mean, malnourished people. Yes.
Yeah, they don't develop because they don't have the
energy to grow.
Yeah, they don't have the vitamins, minerals, nutrition that the body needs. Right. So we can influence nature to a certain extent. Obviously, the difference is, like, it's going to be on a universal scale. The difference is going to be really, really, really small. It's like they're going to be like 3 centimeters bigger, right, or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on a personal level, that can make a huge difference.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
That's exactly what I said within my analogy.
Yeah, I know. I'm clarifying it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm clarifying.
So just to clarify it even further, what I meant is that, yes, people with good nutrition or kids with good nutrition are going to grow bigger compared to the malnourished children. But you cannot use good nutrition to make a 3-year-old be 150 centimeters tall. Right? Because it's not the time. It's the same with the brain development.
Yeah, okay. Let's say it's obvious that you don't put the cart before the horse, right?
Uh-huh.
So my point is that you can actually use nature to influence nature. Because if you give the right nature in terms of nutrition to children, they can grow up to be stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And to stronger, fitter, to have more physical opportunity, I would say, because you can't eradicate all disease and all problems, and blah de blah de blah. You don't want to, etc., etc. All those arguments. Now, your argument about the physical development of the mind is pretty much logical in terms of the physical development of the body.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be stimulated to grow better, or in a better way, because nature can be influenced. You can actually stimulate nature, and people would say artificially, but it can still be done, stimulate nature to develop.
Yes,
because,
but only to a certain extent.
photosynthesis is a classic example
Yes,
with
yes,
plants,
yes,
right?
yes, and you can stimulate a child's brain to be at its best of it being a child's brain, but you cannot stimulate a child's brain to become an adult's brain before it's ready.
Okay, that's not my argument. I'm not arguing against that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against that at all.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that if we know
Mm-hmm.
that you can manipulate it, yeah? If we know that you can stimulate it to develop better, faster.
You cannot. That's what I'm just saying. You cannot stimulate it to develop faster.
But I'm saying you can, because you can control the environment. You can stimulate it to develop faster, because the same way that you can make a plant grow in artificial conditions by controlling the environment around the plant, you can cause the plant to grow where it would otherwise not grow. And so you can cause...
Yes, but you cannot make it grow faster, G.
What I'm saying... sorry, no, but that's what stimulation is. Stimulation is making it grow faster. If you provide the light that a plant needs artificially to the plant will grow faster. It will grow faster.
It will not grow faster than in the best conditions that it can have.
Yeah, that's not my argument. I don't argue against that. It's a different argument. It's a valid point, but different argument. I'm saying that you can always stimulate something to grow. There's always something that you can manipulate.
Yes.
You can always give more sunshine to a plant, for example, and to the point at which you want to give it within reason. If you give too much, it will kill it, right?
You can't always give up more sunshine. Yeah.
Well, you can. It'll just kill it. You can give it too much. Some plants need more, some plants need less, right? That's just the way it is. They adapt. The plants adapt to the environment that they're in. That's how they become different. Some need more light, some need less light, right?
What's your point?
That you can manipulate. You can control the development by controlling the environment.
To a certain degree, yes.
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 Yes, you're not going to, look, to a certain degree, yes, you're not going to change a fucking orange into a chair, right? Like an orange is not going to become a tree, so there's a limit, right? But that's not my argument. Of course there's a limit, but that's not my argument. My argument is that development can be stimulated. Now, if you, or anybody, this is general you, it's not you, yeah. If a person understands that you can stimulate the development through controlling the environment, you can make things grow faster. Now, there's a negative consequence to it.
Only to the point where the nature allows you to.
Yeah. I'm within the limits. Okay, I'm not. As I said, like oranges don't become chairs, right? So there's a limit. There's a physical limit to everything, right? Like a fox is not going to give birth to an elephant, right? There's a limit to it, but you can stimulate it.
You cannot make Zora grow faster. You can only make sure that she doesn't grow slower. You can only make sure that there's nothing hindering it.
That's a double. I'm sorry, darling.
And it's the same thing with the plant. It's the same thing that I said about the conditions. You cannot make the flower grow.
Can you say that statement again about the faster and the slower thing? I want to get that right.
Well, I'm trying to. Just as I said with the flower, you cannot make the flower grow faster than it would grow in the best conditions. And anything else is just providing worse conditions and stunning the growth. Stunting, sorry.
Stunning growth would be good growth, right?
So, it's the same with kids. It's not that you can make them grow faster, whether you're talking about body or mind. It's not that you can make them grow faster by providing better conditions. It's that you cannot stunt their growth by providing bad conditions. So you are not making them grow faster. The nature makes them grow as fast as they can, as long as they have good conditions for it. You cannot influence that. You can only influence whether they're going to be stunted in their development in a certain way if you provide worse conditions than the best that they can get. Yes, the floor is yours.
It is possible to take a flower or a plant from one place where it is growing badly and plant it somewhere else where it grows more well.
Yes.
Therefore, you can control the environment which changes the growth of the nature.
The only problem that I have is with your wording, make it grow faster. You can change the environment so that the person can grow at its best in the best conditions that it has.
Okay,
but you're not really making it grow faster.
Okay, is the problem with the verb?
Is
the problem with the word "make"?
Yes,
you're
just providing better environment for that allows them to grow at the pace that they were designed to grow in the first place.
But you can change the environment which allows them to grow faster. Then by your change of the environment allows them to grow faster?
It allows them to grow at the pace that they were designed to grow in the first place.
Let's call it their maximum potential.
Yes, that's better. It's
Okay,
better
so-
than making them
So
grow
you can
faster.
change the environment to assist them to grow at their maximum potential. Is that correct? I want to get this right.
But I've got a but. I've got a but. But that's an idealized situation, and just like any other idealized situation,
Yeah. Can I make an argument that it's not an idealized situation? Can I make
You
can I
can.
make an argument
You
that it's
can make any argument you want.
that it's an everyday situation where if we frame the debate in the sense of the ability to do the best that you can do with what you've got,
Mm-hmm.
then it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes. That was my point that I was making. That you can do as well as you can do with what you've got, and provide
So,
as good a environment as you can to maximize your children's potential to maximum.
so controlling the environment is important
Yes, obviously. I mean,
because
obviously.
if you control the environment, you can improve the potential for development.
Yes. The bottom line is that the words that, in my opinion, were wrong words that you were using, to make grow faster. The bottom line is that you cannot make anything grow faster, right? You can maximize the potential for growth by ensuring the best environment that you can. But you have to keep in mind the biological processes that have to occur in that time when they occur and cannot be sped up in any way or skipped, right? And you have to keep in mind that those biological processes are going to influence the psychology of your children, whether you like it or not. So when they act out or storm out of the room or have whatever illogical reactions or whatever reactions that might appear illogical or maybe overly emotional or whatever, in that point in time, you have to keep in mind that it's to a certain extent, to a large extent, biologically given because of the way that their brain is developing in that point in time. And you can't really skip it. You can give them great tools for managing their emotions by teaching them emotional intelligence in early age, but you cannot skip the developmental step of being a teenager, right? You can make it easier for them if they learn how to manage emotions, but it's not going to make puberty disappear.
Yeah, being a teenager and puberty are different things in my book, especially if you understand that my problem is not with your argument. My problem is with this whole principle of teenagers.
What principle of teenagers?
The whole principle that teenagers is a modern concept. It's not unnecessary.
A teenager is an age. Teenager is anything from 13 until 19.
Yeah, but you realize the concept teenager did not exist until before the 1950s.
What do you mean? What, people weren't 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 and 19 year old?
they weren't defined as teenagers during that period. It's like saying it's like creating a word for. It was a new word that was created. It was a new word that was created sort of in late 50s culture.
For people who went through puberty.
For people between the ages of 13 and 19 and some of the experiences that they go through then. It was a new concept. What you consider as perfectly normal and rational now was an entirely new concept to people.
Yeah, well, people didn't have as much knowledge about brain development and psychological processes as we have now back then. So you know, when you don't know things, you don't name them because you don't know that they exist, right?
Yeah, there are two arguments within this space of that debate. You know, there's a strong argument for everything that we gain as adults, we also lose something in terms of our psychological development. And here's the example. The process of thinking that adults go through and what children go through is different in the respect that, let's say, let's take an obvious example. This is oversimplified, but it's just a really obvious example. Schools are designed by adults for what adults think is the best for children.
Mm-hmm.
However, schools are designed by adults in general for people with adult thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why we don't send kids there.
Yeah.
Because
And as my point being that there are times when it's an interesting thought experiment for adults to try to think how things would be as if they were children. Not that it's even possible to do that, but as a thought experiment.
it shouldn't just be a
It's very
thought
useful.
experiment. It should be a daily teacher practice. You know, what are my people's thinking? What are they going through? What do they need? How do they feel today? How would I feel if I were them?
Yeah, and then what I'm saying is that that should be, but it's actually far more complicated than most people realize. It's not just something that you do or don't do. It requires you almost to rewire your brain.
Well, yes, because you cannot empathize with a child unless you know how to think like a child.
Yeah, but also at the same time you can unsee something.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can block it out, but that's still referencing it.
Well, yes, it's obviously you have huge limitations in empathizing with children when you're an adult because you're an adult.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a child's brain and you don't have that child's
Yeah,
experience.
and therein lies, you know, a large part of the problem with communication.
Do you know what I hated when I was a kid?
The fact that Slovak television was shit.
No. I completely and totally hated it when I had problems and nobody acknowledged them as problems. Everybody would like wave their hand and say, "Ah, what problems could you have? You're a kid." Or they would say things like, "Oh, small people, small problems; big people, big problems." Or
What?
they'd think
What does that even mean?
they'd say things like,
Does that mean
"Oh,
anything?
children have children-sized problems, and
Small rock,
adults have
small
big
rock, big
problems."
rock,
Like,
big rock.
you don't know. Basically, the response that I would get from any and all adults in my life would be, "You're a child. Your problems are very small problems. Just you wait until you're an adult and find out what real problems really are, and then you will realize that all your children problems were not problems at all." Right?
Yeah,
Which is a complete bullshit, right?
Because children fly planes and drop bombs on each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is a complete bullshit, because for a kid, that kid-sized problem is a huge problem, right? It's like, I don't know, it just is. It's like, oh, I forgot my homework.
Well, it's the
It's
argument
a massive problem. It causes huge stress, right?
Yeah, but look at it from this psychological perspective. Look, a rose by any other name is still a rose. We
Yeah.
understand that, right?
Uh-huh.
A problem by any other definition still remains a problem. A
And
problem for someone by anybody else's other definition is still a problem for the first person.
And the thing is that when you're a kid, you have absolutely no means of relating to the adult's problems. But when you're an adult, you can relate to the kid's problems because you were a kid. Right?
But that should be, but that's not how it works. That's how it should be, but that's not how it works.
But it can work. It can work to a certain extent if the adult wants to do that, but adults don't want to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that, but what I'm saying previously, if we go back 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, I know.
Is that
you cannot unsee things.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, so when you say the child can't see the adult perspective,
Yeah.
the adult, the argument is, well, it should because you've had that experience.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't because you've had that experience.
But it takes in my opinion, all it takes is willingness and practice. All it takes is getting back down to their level, put your problems away, and think about that kid and what they're feeling. And you can do that. I need to leave for a second. I think we should finish because we've been going on for more than 2 hours now.
We have, and I'm just looking out the window at the storm.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
And
Very windy.
I'm constantly amazed by, like, yesterday was extremely calm and extremely warm,
Uh-huh.
and it
Today
was
is
just kind of
crazy.
it was a really odd weather for winter. It was like a spring day in the middle of winter, and today is like an autumn day
Yeah.
in the middle of
Blustery
winter.
day, yeah.
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 What's that saying about the British weather? If you don't like it, wait 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got all 4 seasons and just any time. You can have.
It's a song, isn't it? 4
Is it?
seasons in one day.
Well, you can have that.
Wasn't that Australian or New Zealand group?
Listen, if I stay like
With the
this for
fingers.
another 2 minutes, my
What's it?
ears are going to be
It's bugging me.
amputated.
Who sang that? 4 seasons in one day.
I
It's bugging
don't
me.
know, G. I've never heard that in my life.
Of course you have. It was a radio song. It was on the radio.
How does it go?
Constant.
Sing it to me.
Wait. It's the same group that I'm not going to say it because I can't remember the melody.
Winter, spring, summer, and fall.
No.
All you got to do is go.
Who sang "Fall at Your Feet"? It was this Crowded House. Dun dun dun, from the nether regions of my brain.
Yeah, well, that doesn't
Right.
help me to determine.
Whenever I fall at your feet, I can't. No, I have played that song to you many times.
Doesn't ring a bell from what you're saying.
Of course it does. It doesn't ring a bell when I sing anything because I can't fucking sing for toffee, kinda. But can't even sing for my supper. So fall at your feet. Because I played that because Jesse Cook did a version of that in his live concert, which everyone should hear before they die. Anyway.
Yes,
Never.
yes. My ears are going to fall off in 1 minute.
Yes?
Yes.
Well, that would be terrible.
Extremely painful.
Oh, okay. So we've done it again.
It's on it again.
We've done it again. There we go. Good for us.
And now it's work time.
That was a happy sound.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
happy sound of work time.
Yeah, work time. Work time. Sunday morning.
Say bye to the digital world. and
Bye,
hello, real
digital world.
Hello. Bye, digital world. Hello, real world. And Zora is actually waving bye-bye. Okay. That's pretty funny. That's it. We've done it. Done. Oh. Have a great day wherever you are.